civic ancestors set upon a bold experiment, never before attempted in the history of humankind. Rejecting kings and military rulers, our founding fathers embarked on a bold democracy that of citizens choosing leaders and citizens conducting government. Ancient Athens did attempt a type of democracy, but it did not last, and in reality it was rigged so that the elite 1/10% actually ran the country. But the United States of America is a bold experiment of citizens governing themselves. This government is a gift from God. Our Bible story continues with ancient Israel escaping slavery in Egypt by the grace of God. Israel wandered in the wilderness 40 years, led and fed and nurtured and fashioned by the grace of God. Israel was reclaimed his promised land by the grace of God. Israel was a people protected and secured in the land by the grace of God. Israel was governed directly through the prophets by the grace of God. But then Prophet Samuel grew old. The people watched their prophet's vigor fade and saw no one able to step in. The people worried and grew anxious, wanted someone they liked to lead. They asked for a king to be like all the other nations. And it grieved the God who gave them all. God who was their king already. And now they asked for another. King Saul fit the bill. The people wanted a tall, handsome leader, someone whose hair flowed free and masculine. The people wanted a healthy, strong leader, someone who could fight. The people wanted someone they knew, someone familiar and famous, someone who looked like a leader. They did not want someone particularly good at governing. They wanted a rock star. And Saul fit the bill. And Saul failed miserably. The book of 1 Samuel tells that tragic tale. 2 Samuel was a story of King David, Israel's second chance at kings. David took a different approach at kingship, which is described in these verses from chapter 6. He was not always good at it, but his motto was true. In these verses of chapter 6, King David brought the Ark of God, the box and sheet that was the visual presence of God. He brought this Ark of God into the newfound capital, Jerusalem. But David did not lead the procession, seated on a high horse of power, with the Ark second place trailing. The Ark went first. God went first. God is always first. In leading the people, God is first. In running the nation, God is first. In decisions of justice, God is first. The Ark of God was sheltered 20 years in the home of Abinadab in the hills of western Jerusalem. No one else had the courage to hold such power and holiness. It was too dangerous to have the Lord so close. But King David trusted the Lord for so long that he trusted God in this too. David brought the seat of God from the rural hills into the city of God, Jerusalem. The Ark went first. God would be first. Israel's greatest king, David, trailed beside, dancing and rejoicing and praising God, who was the ultimate and true and final king of Israel. King David recognized that he was an instrument of God, that his rule was by God's grace, that if he was to be good at any of this king thing, God would be first. The kings that followed David forgot that, and the inadequacies of kings became evident. The weakness of kings is that all the responsibility rests with that king. The weakness of kings is the extent that they could tax resources from everyone else and use those resources for the benefit of his kingdom. And it all fell on the king to do this. More sophisticated kings organized bureaucracies to assist them, and the most able were able to organize into emperors. But it always came down to one person responsible. America's early leaders recognized the ability and opportunity of ordinary citizens. America's democracy unleashed the creative power and creativity and power of citizens taking responsibility. And we have organized into layers of government nationally and locally, but also with agencies accomplishing what no king or citizen alone can do. Social Security guards against poverty and old age. The GI Bill gave college education that multiplied our middle class and low-interest, zero-down payment home loans that created our modern suburbs. And the Hoover Dam, providing jobs during the Great Depression, supplies power and irrigation and municipal water to Arizona, Nevada, and Southern California, making possible the cities of Las Vegas and Los Angeles and Phoenix and San Diego. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is our nation's arm of addressing poverty and providing disaster assistance around the world. Our democracy has made possible far more than what could have been done with kings or autocrats. God's grace has given us this great opportunity of experimenting with citizen rule. And so we are a nation under God. We are not a nation with God blessing at our bidding. It is a Kuwaitan, a one-way street, God first, and nation accountable. On top of democratic government, by citizens taking responsibility for our own communities, we have created a vast network of civil society. Churches were the origins of civil society, form its backbone. Apart from government, we organize to care for each other directly. And we are a congregation of Lake Nokomis Lutheran Church, providing faith formation from infancy to death, fostering friendships and supports to bear life challenges, fulfilling the spiritual drive of caring in larger ways than anyone on our own can do, organizing to serve our neighbors so that our greater community is made better. This congregation is also one link in a network of congregations for far greater impact across the United States and throughout the world, a network called the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We are one church of 3.3 million members, of 9,000 congregations, a church of millions with 9,000 satellites across the U.S. And Lake Nokomis is part of this church that emphasizes education with 7 seminaries and 26 colleges and universities and over 50 lifelong learning programs, 14 high schools, 296 elementary schools, 1,573 early childhood programs, and 145 camps and retreat centers. And Lake Nokomis is part of this church that remains and rebuilds following disasters. When headlines fail and others give up, every single one of our benevolence dollars given to Lutheran disaster relief goes directly to help those devastated by earthquakes and floods and hurricanes. And Lake Nokomis is part of a church that brings solutions to the root causes of hunger and poverty in the world with health clinics and microloans and water wells and animal husbandry and food pantries and soup kitchens and other projects through Lutheran World Relief. And Lutheran Social Services is one of the largest social agencies in the United States, as large as the American Red Cross, larger and with more impact than the Salvation Army. Lake Nokomis is more than this fellowship of good members. God has given us a church that is far bigger than us few members. God has made us a part of something far larger than our communities and programs. God has given us the freedom to bless this country and world apart from government regulation and rule. God has given us this experiment in democracy that allows each citizen to have a say in our governing and to have a stake in making a better society. All this is now tested. Shall this be one nation under God? Or shall this be a contest of self-interest? Shall we accomplish great good together? Or shall we dissolve into what's in it for me? What kind of America do you want? What kind of church do you want? David danced. The whole country danced at God's seed coming to rest among them. Holiness and glory and might and good came to rest among them. Does your heart dance at the name of God? Does your soul sing praises in this holy place? What does under God